The man's knees gave out before the coffee cup hit the floor. 1 second he was standing at the far end of platform 3 at Manchester Piccadilly. Expensive coat, silver cufflinks, phone pressed to his ear. The next second, everything about him simply stopped. His shoulder caught the edge of the timetable board on the way down. And then he was on the concrete, and the phone was skidding away from him, and the coffee cup was still spinning in a slow, lazy circle, spilling the last of its contents across the platform floor. 12-year-old Blessing Okafor saw the whole thing from the bench where she was sitting. She was already moving before the cup stopped spinning. She had been counting the minutes since she arrived, 7 of them, which meant she had 13 left before the 21:47 to London Euston departed. The last train tonight. The one her mother had circled on the printed schedule she'd taped to the kitchen cabinet 3 days ago, the way she taped important things so Blessing would not miss them. The schedule was next to the photograph of Blessing's late grandmother, which was the most important wall in the flat. Blessing had a scholarship interview at 9 a.m. the following morning. Elmsworth Academic Foundation. Full bursary, 3 years. Her head teacher, Mrs. Adeyemi, had told her that in 22 years of teaching, she had only recommended 4 students for the Elmsworth interview. Blessing was the 4th. None of this was in Blessing's mind when she ran across platform 3. Her mind was completely empty of everything except the man on the ground. She dropped to her knees beside him. He was big, broad, maybe 65, the kind of man whose face in ordinary circumstances probably projected the easy authority of someone accustomed to being listened to. Right now his face was dark red and shining with sweat, and his breathing was a terrible sound, short and ragged and wrong, like a machine trying to run with something caught inside it. "Sir." She put her hand firmly on his shoulder. "Sir, can you hear me? Open your eyes if you can hear me." His eyes were already half open. They moved toward her face slowly, the way eyes move when the person behind them is fighting very hard to stay present. He was in there. He was fighting. Around her, the platform continued. People walked past. A woman glanced down at Blessing and the man and kept walking. A teenager looked up from his phone, assessed the situation, looked back down. "Someone call an ambulance." Blessing shouted. Her voice came out louder than she expected, sharp and carrying. "This man needs help. Right now, someone call 999. A businessman in a gray suit slowed his pace. "He's probably had too much to drink," he said to no one in particular, and walked on. Blessing felt something flare in her chest, hot and clarifying. She reached in her coat pocket and pulled out her phone. Cracked screen, held together at one corner with a small piece of electrical tape her mother had put on it after Blessing dropped it in the school car park. She dialed 999. Emergency. Which service? Ambulance. Manchester Piccadilly Station, platform 3. A man has collapsed. He looks about 65. His breathing is very bad. It's fast and shallow and wrong. His face is very red. I think it might be his heart. Please hurry. How old are you? 12. But I am completely serious and I need you to take me seriously. A brief pause. Typing sounds. I'm taking you seriously. Units are being dispatched. Can you stay with him? Yes. Keep him still. If he loses consciousness and stops breathing, I'll walk you through what to do. Do not leave him. I won't. She ended the call and looked at the departure board. 21:34. 13 minutes until her train. She looked at the man. His lips were slightly parted. Each breath was an effort she could see in his whole body. His chest rising too fast, too shallow, fighting for air it couldn't quite catch. She looked at her train ticket. She looked at him again. She put the ticket in her pocket and sat down on the cold concrete beside him. She placed her palm on his chest the way her mother had shown her once, after watching a first aid video together on a laptop they shared. You want to feel the breath, her mother had said, so you know it's still there. It was still there. I'm not going anywhere, Blessing told him. Help is coming. You just have to stay here with me. She did not know if he could process words, but his eyes found her face again and held there. She thought about the train. She thought about the interview. She thought about her mother, who had worked a double shift at the care home last Saturday, so she could buy Blessing the new blouse for the interview, the blue one, the one Blessing had pointed at in the shop window once and immediately said never mind because she'd seen the price tag. She thought about her mother saying, the night before, Blessing, you're going to walk into that room tomorrow, and you're going to show them exactly who you are. Not who you're trying to be, who you already are. Sitting on the floor of platform 3 with her hand on a stranger's chest, listening to his ragged breathing, refusing to move, Blessing thought that maybe this was part of who she already was. The part that didn't know how to walk away. The 21:47 to London Euston departed at 21:47. She did not watch it go. She kept her eyes on a man's face and kept talking to him. She told him about her school, about the scholarship, about her mother, about the photograph of her grandmother on the kitchen wall, the one where Grandma Cecilia was laughing so hard her eyes had disappeared. She told him the name of their street in Stockport. She told him about the bus that came every 20 minutes except on Thursdays when it was unreliable. She told him everything ordinary she could think of, because ordinary things are anchors, and she needed him anchored. The station security officer arrived at a jog. His name Badge Red T. Hargreaves, and he was a stocky man in his 40s with a radio in one hand and the focused expression of someone who had stopped being surprised by emergencies. He stopped short when he saw Blessing. This small girl in a school coat sitting cross-legged on the platform floor with her hand flat on the chest of a collapsed man. "Did you call this in?" he said. "I called 999. I also shouted for help, but nobody came." Hargreaves crouched beside the man and checked his pulse. His jaw tightened. "Good. You did exactly right." He raised his radio. "Control, Hargreaves at platform 3. I have a male, approximately 60 to 65, cardiac suspected, breathing compromised. Ambulance already called. I need the station medic here immediately, and I need the platform cleared. Now please." He looked at Blessing. "Is he your family?" "No. I was waiting for my train." "You missed it." "Yes." Hargreaves looked at her for one long moment with an expression she couldn't read. Then he turned back to the man and said, more gently than his manner suggested he was capable of, "Sir, my name is Tom. You're at Manchester Piccadilly. There's a young lady here who has been with you. You're not alone. Help is nearly here." The man's fingers moved. Slowly, deliberately, the way fingers move when the person they belong to is using every available resource just to make that one small gesture. They moved toward Blessing. She reached out and took his hand without being asked. His grip was weak, but it was a grip. "I'm here," she said. "I've got you." Paramedics arrived in 4 minutes. 2 of them, a tall red-haired woman named Claire and a younger man named Preethi, who moved with the particular economy of someone who has done this thousands of times and knows exactly where every second goes. They came with equipment and purpose, and they close in around the man with the practice coordination of a team that trusts each other completely. Claire glanced at Blessing. "You've been with him? Since he fell. How long?" "About 11 minutes. Did he lose consciousness at any point?" "No. His eyes have been open the whole time. He squeezed my hand 2 minutes ago." Preethi looked up from a monitor he was attaching. "She's good," he said to Claire. Not to Blessing. To Claire. As if Blessing were a piece of equipment performing above its expected specifications. Blessing decided to take it as a compliment. "Sir, we're going to take care of you," Claire said to the man, her voice clear and warm. "You've had a cardiac event. We're going to get you to hospital. You're going to be all right." She looked at Blessing. "What's your name?" "Blessing." "Blessing. Has he said anything?" "No, but he's been listening." "I could tell." Claire nodded. She looked at Hargreaves, who had moved the gathering platform onlookers back with his arms spread wide. Then she looked at Blessing. "Do you have someone to call?" "My mum." "Call her. You're coming with us." Blessing blinked. "To the hospital?" He responded to your voice. "That matters clinically." Claire's already back to the monitor, adjusting something with 2 quick, precise movements. "You can ride in the front. Preethi will be in the back with him. Call your mum on the way." Blessing called her mother in the ambulance. The phone rang once. "Blessing? You should be on the train." "Mum, I need to tell you something, and I need you to stay calm." A silence. Her mother's voice, when it came back, was very controlled. "Tell me." Blessing told her. All of it. The collapse, the platform, the 999 call, the missed train. She could hear her mother breathing on the other end of the line, steadying herself the way she always did when something frightened her, the long, slow breath in that she taught Blessing to use when things felt too large. "Are you hurt?" her mother said. "No, Mom. I'm completely fine." "In the interview." "I know." "Blessing." "Mom." There was nobody else. A pause. "You know I couldn't leave him." Another silence. Longer this time. And then her mother said, quietly, without drama, in the voice she used when she was saying something she meant completely, "No, baby, I know you couldn't." A breath. "I'm coming." "You don't have to." "I'm coming." "Which hospital?" "Manchester Royal Infirmary received them at 21:58. The emergency base swallowed the man and his stretcher and the paramedics and clothes around them, and Blessing was left standing in the bright, bleach-scented corridor with Hargreaves beside her and nowhere particular to go. A nurse pointed her to the relatives' waiting area. It was a square room with gray carpet and orange chairs and a water cooler that made an intermittent bubbling sound. A television mounted near the ceiling was showing a property program with the sound off. Two other people were in the room, a very old man asleep in the corner and a young woman staring at her hands. Blessing sat down. She put her school bag on her lap. She held very still. She thought about the scholarship interview. 9 a.m. She would need to be on a train by 6:30 at the latest to make it to London in time. And it was now past 10 at night, and her mother was driving from Stockport, and she had no idea how any of the next few hours would arrange themselves. She thought about Mrs. Adeyemi. She thought about the blue blouse her mother had bought on a double-shift Saturday. She thought about the man's hand and the way his grip had tightened around her fingers, and she thought, "I would do it again." Her mother arrived at 22:41. Yvonne Okafor was 44 years old, with close-cropped natural hair going silver at the temples and the bearing of a woman who had been through genuinely difficult things and emerged from them with her spine intact. She had driven from Stockport in 31 minutes on roads that should have taken 45, which she mentioned to no one. She came through the waiting area door, scanning the room with a speed and precision that Blessing had always privately found impressive. Her mother could locate her in any space, in any crowd, in any configuration of chairs and people, within 3 seconds flat. It was a skill born of years of watching, of the particular vigilance of a woman raising a child alone and knowing that no one else was going to watch as carefully as she did. When she found Blessing, she crossed to her without a word and held her daughter's head against her chest for a long time. Blessing could feel her mother's heartbeat, steady, a little fast, but steadying by the second. Yvonne always calmed quickly. It was one of the things Blessing most admired about her. The feeling came, the feeling was real, and then she put it somewhere and became useful. It was what she wanted to be when she grew up. Among other things, when she pulled back, she cupped Blessing's face in both hands and looked at her the way she always did after a fright. Fully, completely, making sure with her own eyes. "Tell me everything," she said. From beginning, Blessing told her. All of it, this time with the details she'd left out on the phone. The coffee cup still spinning, the crowd that didn't stop, the businessman in the gray suit. Her mother listened without moving. When Blessing finished, Yvonne was quiet. Then she said, "You were scared." It was not a question. "Yes," Blessing said. "But you stayed." "Yes." Yvonne nodded slowly. "I raised you in a one-bedroom flat," she said, "on a care worker's salary, with second-hand uniforms and a cracked phone and a bus pass." She paused. "But I raised you right. Do you understand me? I raised you right." Blessing felt something tighten and release in her throat simultaneously. "The interview, Mum. I know. I needed that scholarship. I know that too." Yvonne took her daughter's hand. "But you needed to be yourself more. And you were." She looked at the closed door through which the man had disappeared. "God sees it, Blessing. Every bit of it. He keeps account." They sat together. The water cooler bubbled. The property program ended and a nature documentary began, still without sound. The young woman across the room got a phone call and left quickly. The old man in the corner slept on. At 23:20, a doctor came to the waiting area door. He was a consultant cardiologist, trim, 50s, with the quick and precise movements of someone whose time is always more expensive than anyone else's in the room. His name was Dr. Callum Finch, and he looked briefly and visibly surprised to find a 12-year-old girl when he asked for whoever had come in with the Platform 3 patient. "That's me," Blessing said. She stood up. Dr. Finch looked at her, then at Yvonne, then back at Blessing. "You're the one who stayed with him? Called it in?" "Yes." "And you kept him talking?" "I kept talking to him. I don't know if he could respond." "He could hear you," Dr. Finch said. He said it with the blunt certainty of a man who deals in physiological facts. The auditory pathway is often the last thing to go under cardiac stress. "Your voice would have registered." He paused. It may have been a significant factor in keeping him from losing consciousness completely, which matters enormously in terms of outcomes. Yvonne pressed her lips together, said nothing. "How is he?" Blessing asked. "Stable. He suffered a serious myocardial infarction, a heart attack. We've done an emergency procedure, and his heart is being supported. He is not out of danger yet, but his trajectory is improving." Dr. Finch looked at her steadily. "You bought him time on that platform. That time matters." Blessing nodded. She absorbed this carefully, the way she absorbed important information, not with drama, but with weight. "He has no identification on him," Dr. Finch continued. "No phone, no wallet. We believe they may have remained on the platform. We are working to identify his next of kin." In the meantime, he looked at Blessing again with that slightly puzzled expression, the expression of a man who thinks he understands a world and has just encountered a data point that complicates his model. He has been asking intermittently for the girl. Those are his words. "The girl. Staff believe he means you. Can I see him?" Blessing said immediately. Briefly, Dr. Finch said, "And only because I believe it will help him." The room was quiet and white and humming with the particular sounds of machines that were keeping a man's body doing the things it had temporarily forgotten how to do on its own. He lay in the bed, looking reduced. Not small, but concentrated somehow, the way large things look when they've been pared back to their essential core. He was white-haired. She could see now in the proper light. Strong jaw, even in stillness. The kind of face that in health probably projected certainty the way some people project warmth. Not meaning to, just constitutionally. His eyes were open when she walked in. Blessing walked to the chair beside his bed and sat down. She reached out and took his hand, and it was warmer than it had been on the platform floor. His fingers, slowly and with enormous effort, wrapped around hers. "Hello," Blessing said. "I'm Blessing. We've met, sort of. You were on Platform 3 at Piccadilly tonight. I was sitting on the bench." His lips moved. "Nothing came out yet." "You don't have to speak," she said. "I just wanted you to know that you are in the hospital, and the doctors say you're doing better. Your heart is being taken care of." She paused. "I stayed with you on the platform, and in the ambulance. I talk a lot. You probably know everything about my school by now." Something shifted in his face. The edges of his mouth moved, not quite a smile, but the attempt at one, the ghost of one, the intention. His eyes were very direct. Even in his diminished state, even wired to monitors and propped on hospital pillows, his eyes looked at her with the full, undivided attention of someone who is completely present in the moment. She had the sense that this was how he always looked at things, that this was simply who he was. "Thank you," he said. It came out rough and barely there, but it was clear. "You're welcome," Blessing said simply. "I'm glad you're still here." She stayed 5 minutes. The nurse ushered her out with a gentle hand on her shoulder. In the corridor, Dr. Finch met her with a nod. "Good," he said. His heart rate settled while you were in there. He said it the way he would report a lab result. Factually, which, Blessing thought, was probably the best compliment available from a man like him. It was past midnight. Yvonne had spoken to the ward manager about arranging a counselor for Blessing if needed, and had also quietly asked Dr. Finch's registrar whether there was anything at all that could be done about reaching the Elmsworth Foundation given the extraordinary circumstances. The registrar had not known. Yvonne had nodded and let it go. They found a family room to wait in. Yvonne had blankets from the nurses. She had a way of acquiring necessary things from institutions simply by asking with the right combination of warmth and authority, a skill Blessing had always admired. They settled in. The night deepened. Blessing slept for a while. She dreamed about the platform. In the dream, she was on the bench with her ticket, and the coffee cup was already spinning and she was watching it. And in the dream, she felt the exact moment of choice, the precise instant when her body decided before her mind did. In the dream, as in life, she didn't hesitate. She woke up at 4:10 a.m. to voices in the corridor. Different voices from the hospital night sounds. Sharper, higher register, the voices of people who have been given urgent news and are processing it while moving. She sat up. Yvonne was already awake, watching the door. A woman came in first. Late 50s, immaculate, even at 4 a.m., dark hair pulled back, the kind of compose that sits on top of something larger that is working hard not to show. Behind her, two adults in their 30s, a man and a woman, and behind them, a younger assistant with a leather portfolio. The woman stopped when she saw Blessing and Yvonne. "Mrs. Okafor," she said. Yvonne stood. "Yes, I'm Patricia Alderton. I'm the wife of the man you came in with." Her voice was carefully level. "Our daughter found his station pass on the platform. That's how we found him." She paused. "The hospital told us about your daughter." She looked at Blessing directly. And Blessing saw something in Patricia Alderton's eyes that all the careful composure in the world could not fully contain. It was raw and enormous, and it was gratitude of a kind that had no ceiling. "You stayed with him," Patricia said. "Yes," Blessing said. "You sat on the floor with him." "Yes." "Alone." "Yes." Patricia Alderton pressed her lips together very hard for 2 seconds. Then she said, "He is everything to us. Do you understand?" "He is," she stopped. Started again. "He is everything to us." "I could see that he mattered," Blessing said quietly. "Even without knowing who he was. You could just see it. People who matter, it shows somehow." Patricia stared at her. Behind her, the man and the woman, her son and daughter, Blessing understood, were very still. Patricia sat down in the chair nearest Blessing. She sat down the way people sit down when their legs have made the decision before they have. She reached out and took Blessing's hand in the way that bypassed formality entirely. The way people reach for each other when there's no time left for anything except truth. "Your daughter missed her train," Yvonne said. Her voice was gentle. "She had an important scholarship interview in London this morning." Patricia looked at Yvonne sharply. "The Elmsworth." Yvonne blinked. "Yes, actually." Patricia's expression did something complicated. She looked at her son. The son, mid-30s with his father's jaw, took out his phone and stepped into the corridor. The man's name, they learned at 6 a.m. when he was strong enough to have his family around him in shifts and when his personal assistant, a compact, brisk woman named Harriet Walsh, arrived with a briefcase and a laptop and the air of someone who had been managing emergencies for 15 years. Was Gerald Hartwell Cross. The name landed in the room the way large stones land in still water. Gerald Hartwell Cross. Hartwell Cross Capital. The investment group responsible for, among other things, the regeneration of 3 former industrial districts in the English Midlands, the endowment of 2 university science wings, and the foundation that bore his family's name and that funded, among various educational and social programs, approximately 40% of the Elmsworth Academic Foundation's annual bursary budget. Harriet Walsh delivered this information to Yvonne in the corridor while Blessing was in with Gerald, holding his hand, telling him that the sunrise was happening outside the window, and the sky was going the particular shade of pale gold that happened in November when the light came in low. Gerald's eyes were clearer this morning. The monitors were showing numbers that made Dr. Finch's registrar visibly relax. Gerald looked at Blessing with full, undivided attention. "You missed your interview," he said. His voice was still rough, but it was his voice now. You could hear the shape of the person in it. "Yes," Blessing said. "Elmsworth Foundation." She paused. "You know it." The ghost of a smile again, more visible now. "I know it rather well." He looked at her for a long moment. "Tell me about yourself, Blessing." "There is not very much to tell." "I disagree. Start wherever you like." So she told him. About Stockport. About the 1-bedroom flat and the second-hand uniforms and the photograph of Grandma Cecilia on the wall and the bus that was unreliable on Thursdays. About her mother's double shifts and the blue blouse. About Mrs. Adeyemi, who had recommended 4 students in 22 years. about wanting to be a surgeon. She had never told anyone about wanting to be a surgeon in quite this direct a way. She usually softened it, said doctor, because surgeon felt like reaching for something she was not entitled to claim yet. But Gerald Hartwell Cross was looking at her with the particular attention of a man who has made his living knowing the difference between what is real and what is performed, and she could not bring herself to perform. A surgeon, he said. Yes. Why? Because it is the most precise form of help, she said. You go in and you fix the actual thing. You do not manage it or mitigate it or work around it. You fix it. She paused. I like fixing things. Gerald looked at her steadily. You rather proved that last night, he said. The Elmsworth Foundation's director received a call, 7:15 a.m., from a number he did not recognize. He answered because he always answered early calls. In his experience, only important things happened before 7:30 a.m. The call was from Gerald Hartwell Cross, speaking from a hospital bed in Manchester with a nasal cannula and a cardiac monitor and the unhurried certainty of a man who knew that what he was about to say was going to happen regardless of whatever the response might be. He spoke for 4 minutes. The director listened. Blessing Okafor's interview was rescheduled to the following Thursday. She was collected from the Manchester Royal Infirmary by a car that Harriet Walsh had arranged, driven home to Stockport by a driver who waited outside while she showered and changed into the blue blouse, and then driven to a station where a first-class ticket was waiting for her at the collection machine. She sat in the quiet of the first-class carriage and looked out the window at England moving past, the flat stretches of the Midlands, the slow emergence of the outskirts of London, and she thought about Platform 3. She thought about the coffee cup still spinning. She thought about the businessman in the gray suit who had kept walking. She thought about choices, about the way they announced themselves, not with drama, not with trumpets, but as simple forks in a road that looks ordinary until you realize, later, that one path was everything. The interview itself lasted 45 minutes. Blessing sat across a long table from 3 people. A woman in her 60s who had the focused patience of someone who had spent a career listening, a younger man who took notes in a small spiral notebook without looking down at it, and a third person who said almost nothing but watched everything. The questions were not the questions Blessing had prepared for. They did not ask about her grades, which were excellent. They did not ask about her extracurricular activities, which were limited because she spent most of her free time helping her mother, which she did not consider a sacrifice and never had. They asked her about decisions. They asked her to describe a time she had chosen something difficult over something easy, and why. They asked her what she thought the purpose of education was, not in theory, not as a textbook answer, but genuinely, what did she believe it was for? She told them the truth each time. She did not perform. She did not soften or shape or present a version of herself that she thought they wanted. She sat up straight, the way her mother had told her, and she spoke clearly, and she showed them who she was. She got the scholarship. She got it not because Gerald Hartwell Cross had made a call, though he had, but because she walked into that room as herself, completely and without apology, and the people across the table recognized something in her that could not be manufactured. The interviewers said afterward, in their notes, that Blessing would never see that she was the most composed young person they had interviewed in several years, with an unusually precise sense of both her goals and her values. One of them wrote a single word in the margin of his notepad beside her name. The word was real. What happened after was not a transaction. It did not feel like a reward, and Blessing would resist that framing for the rest of her life. What happened was that Gerald Hartwell Cross, from his hospital bed and then from his home in Cheshire as he recovered, made a series of decisions about what to do with the extraordinary fact of still being alive. He established a bursary in his family foundation's name specifically for students from low-income backgrounds pursuing medicine or surgery. The first recipient, in the year Blessing turned 16, was a girl from Wolverhampton named Deja, who wanted to be an anesthesiologist. The second was a boy from Glasgow. By the time Blessing was 18 and leaving for medical school, the bursary had supported 11 students. She was not one of them. Gerald had been very clear about that. He would not make Blessing's future contingent on his generosity, because what she had given him was not something that could be repaid by becoming her benefactor. What she had given him existed outside that kind of accounting. So instead, he had written her a letter. 1 page, handwritten, that arrived 6 months after the night on platform 3. It said, "You told me, on the floor of a train station, that I was not alone. I have been in rooms full of people for 40 years and felt alone in most of them. I will not forget what you gave me that night, and I will not cheapen it by turning it into a debt. What I will do is try to live the rest of my life the way you lived that hour. Present, deliberate, willing to miss the train. Thank you, Blessing. Go and be a surgeon. The world needs you." She kept the letter in the same drawer as the photograph of Grandma Cecilia. Blessing Okafor was offered a position, Senior Community Liaison for the Hartwell Cross Foundation's New Midlands program. It was a real position with a real salary, doing work that her 20 years in care had equipped her better than anyone to do. She took it after 2 weeks of consideration, because Yvonne was not a woman who made decisions in a hurry, and because she wanted to be sure she was taking it, because it was right and not because she was overwhelmed by gratitude. It was right. She took it. Their flat in Stockport gained a second bedroom the following year when they moved to a house 3 streets over. The photograph of Grandma Cecilia went on the new kitchen wall, same position, same height, because some things anchor a home and you do not change their coordinates. Gerald Hartwell Cross made a full recovery. He was at his desk by February and chairing a board meeting by March, though his cardiologist had extracted a promise that the meetings would be shorter. He kept the promise for approximately 6 weeks. His team noticed, though none of them said anything directly, that something else had changed, smaller and harder to name. He listened differently. He arrived earlier. He stayed later at the community events he had previously attended only because Harriet had blocked them in his diary, and he could not find a legitimate reason to cancel. He was seen, on one occasion that became quietly legendary among his foundation staff, sitting on the floor of a primary school in Salford with 6-7-year-olds, building something out of cardboard tubes. He did not explain it, and no one asked. He thought about Platform 3 often. He thought about it the way people think about the moments that reorganize everything. Not constantly, not with the drama of someone who has had a revelation, but steadily, the way you are aware of a compass even when you are not looking at it. It is there. It is pointing somewhere true. He thought about a girl who had sat on a cold concrete floor with her hand on his chest and told him ordinary things in a steady voice and refused to leave. Who had missed a train that mattered enormously to her, for a stranger, without once asking whether the stranger deserved it. He thought about what that cost her and what it revealed about her. He thought about the world in which a 12-year-old girl with a cracked phone and a split-soled shoe and a scholarship interview at 9 a.m. had done what every adult on that platform had declined to do. He thought, the world produces these people rarely and mostly loses track of them. And that is the real catastrophe. And if there's anything left that a person like him can do with a life that has been returned to him unexpectedly, it is to make sure that girls like Blessing Okafor do not get lost. He did not say any of this to Blessing. He put into the foundation and the bursary and the letter and into the way he showed up after that, to the things that mattered for the people who needed him there on time, because he now understood in a way that he had only understood theoretically before that time is not a resource. Time is a gift, and every second you spend looking at your phone while someone in front of you is falling down is a second you're choosing not to see them. Blessing Okafor qualified as a surgeon at 31. She specialized in cardiothoracic surgery, a fact that made Gerald Hartwell Cross, when he heard it, sit very still for a moment before laughing. An actual laugh, the deep kind. Of course she did, he said to his wife. Of course she did, Patricia agreed. On the day she qualified, Yvonne sent Blessing a photograph. Not of the graduation, of the kitchen wall, the photograph of Grandma Cecilia, laughing so hard her eyes had disappeared, and beside it now, newly framed, the letter. 1 page. Handwritten. Go and be a surgeon. The world needs you. She already was. And it did. If this story stayed with you, if it reminded you of something true about who we are when it costs us something, please subscribe to this channel. We make stories like this one every single week. Leave a comment below. Would you have stayed on that platform? Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Like this video, hit the notification bell. And thank you, genuinely, for watching all the way to the end. Just like Blessing did.